Hello friends, welcome back to our channel, Mystery Recaps. Today, I will describe the crime thriller film Girl in the Basement. Sara and her father, Don Rushing, are first introduced in the narrative. Murray to the hospital due to her difficulty breathing. Sara begins to experience panic when Murray stops breathing. She urges Don to drive more quickly. When they arrive at the hospital, Don instructs Sara to maintain a low profile. The paramedics hurried to Marie's aid. They administer oxygen and attempt to save her life, but the monitor displays a flat heart line. The narrative flashes back 20 years to a seemingly idyllic family dinner. Sara and Amy are dining with their parents, Don and Irene. The mood at the table shifts as Sara's father reveals his oppressive nature by forbidding her to attend a party and demonstrating his dominance over the family. That evening, Sara and her boyfriend Chris sneak away. Later, her parents find her room empty, and her father describes her as a problem at the party. Sara enjoys dancing with Chris, who later performs a song he composed for her. They declare their love for one another and embrace. Sara returns home each morning. Don has waited all night for her arrival. They quarrel, and Sara claims that once she turns 18, she will leave her family permanently. Sara informs her mother and sister of her plans to travel the country while supporting herself financially. Her father overhears the conversation and proceeds to the basement, where he reveals a secret room hidden behind a bookshelf. Sara graduates 3 months later, and in a conversation with her mother, it is revealed that her father has been spending more time in his man cave, the basement. Don deceives Sara into the basement as she helps him carry a box there after Irene leaves the house. He leads her into the hidden room and explains that it was constructed by the previous owner as a bomb shelter. He locks her in the room, causing her to scream and call for assistance. Sadly, no one can hear her because the shelter is soundproof. Concerned about her whereabouts, her mother contacts the police. On the 4th day, her father pays her a visit and describes the details of her captivity. She must now earn everything she receives, including clean, ventilated air. Prior to his departure, Don takes advantage of Sara. A police officer informs the family that she has likely left for her planned cross-country journey. Sara would never leave without saying goodbye, especially before her 18th birthday, according to her mother. Sara, alone and terrified, recalls the nights she spent with Chris as the days pass. Chris visits the residence. Don lies to him and tells him that Sara ran away with her childhood neighbor, Steve, after graduation. On the 21st day of confinement in the basement, she turns 18, and her father brings her cake and a red nightgown as a gift. She requests a clock, and he replies that she must do something for him before he will do something for her. She is beaten by him when she disobeys. Almost a year after her captivity, she reveals that she is pregnant and that her water has been breaking the entire time. Marie is the name of her newborn child. After 4 years, Sara becomes pregnant again. Don lives a double life, one with his wife Irene and daughter Amy, and another with Sara and her daughter Marie in the basement. Still concerned about Sara's whereabouts, Irene desires to hire a private investigator, but Don categorically refuses. As a gift for being good, Don delivers a television to Sara and Marie in the basement. Later, Sara gives birth to a second son, Michael. One night, Sara tells her children her terrifying life story in the form of a bedtime story about princesses and knights. Chris returns to the residence and inquires about Sara. Amy, her sister, informs them of the truth. Realizing that Don lied to Chris, they discuss how he has always treated Sara with contempt. Amy fears that Don may have murdered her, citing his personality and history of bad temper. Sara creates imaginative adventures for her children to help them forget the outside world. and pass the time. Amy and Irene confront Don with his lies in the meantime. A terrible fight breaks out. Irene shouts that she will do everything possible to locate her daughter. Don loses his keys on the armchair during their fight. Amy takes the keys and investigates the basement for clues. Don locates her, regains his keys, and engages in conflict with Amy. She is furious, terrified, and blames him for Sara's disappearance. As time passes, Sara gives birth to a second son, whom she names Thomas. Sara persuades Don to bring the third child upstairs by being courteous and composed. She convinces him that there is no room for another baby in the basement, and she lacks the time to care for it. Sara apparently writes a heartfelt note in the baby's basket, which Irene discovers on the front porch of the house. She writes that this is her child, and she wants Irene to raise it. She explains in the letter that she and her boyfriend are unable to care for the baby in the basket. There is an additional note from Sara pleading for assistance. Sadly, Don is the one who discovers it and assaults her once more. As the years pass in captivity, the children develop a remarkable imagination, expanding their mother's bedtime story. Since then, Sara has been in basement for 14 years. Marie has matured into a beautiful young woman who experiments with makeup. One evening, when Don expresses admiration for her beauty, Sara begs him to leave her daughter alone. She desires that she not be assaulted. In exchange, Don disables the power that regulates the air quality. Marie, while gasping for air, expresses concern that she will never meet anyone and have no friends. Throughout the course of the conversation, it becomes clear that Marie is unaware that Don is both her grandfather and father. Thomas, now an adult, discovers his grandmother crying in his mother's bedroom. Irene misses her daughter and describes Sara's brilliance to Thomas. At the same time, raindrops begin to fall from the ceiling of the basement. Using a spoon, Sara climbs up to discover a damp roof. She excavates her way to the surface, where she emits a signal of distress. A neighbor observes it and informs Don instead of examining it. Don beats pregnant Sara, who is again pregnant. As she sobs in pain from the beating, she miscarries her unborn child. Sara gives birth to a stillborn child, which Don buries in the garden. Don goes to the basement and begins to gripe. Additionally, he praises Thomas, who is now a powerful athlete. When Marie and Michael inquire as to when they will be led into the outside world, they are told that it is not yet time. Don attributes Sara's bad behavior to her. In a fit of rage, it is due to her children's endless questions about their lives that they are trapped underground. Sara yells and destroys all of their furniture. She collapses to the ground while recalling her happiest times with Chris. Her children covered her with a blanket and cleaned their home. They express regret to her. Emotional Sara informs them that they are mature enough to hear the truth about their captivity. They knew that Don lives upstairs with their AN to assist with Thomas's care. She tells them the truth about everything, beginning with the fact that her life inspired their favorite bedtime story. She explains gently that Don is her father, as well as their father. As soon as Marie discovers the dreadful truth, she experiences a severe asthma attack. The children are now convinced that something is wrong with them. Sara reassures them, stating that she loves them and that Don is solely to blame for their predicament. A year later, Don and Michael have another altercation after Don insults Sara's appearance. Don's difficulties at work necessitate the rationing of food for the basement. Eventually, he loses his job and faces foreclosure. Don attempts to choke his family in the basement. He connects the vehicle's exhaust to the air vent. He is interrupted in the garage by Thomas accidentally saves their lives. While Don and his family enjoy a backyard barbecue, Maria is ill and struggling to breathe. Don will not accompany Marie to the hospital. Sara begs him for aid. She promises not to speak on any subject. Don agrees. Michelle is left behind. 20 years of captivity have passed, and the beginning of the film begins with Marie being rushed to the hospital. Sara is extremely concerned about Marie's health and is ecstatic when doctors save her life. When the nurse inquires about Marie's medical history, she is informed that she is home, schooled, and has only received natural treatments. Sara searches the hospital for an escape route while appearing exhausted and disoriented. Sara splatters water on the medical forms and then distances herself from Don. Moments before, Don reaches her. Sara reaches the nurse and admits she needs assistance. A police officer will speak with Don. Police apprehend him. Sara informs Marie of this. They are free and secure. The residence is filled with officers, who also liberate Michael. As they carry Michael out of the basement, Irene and Thomas are devastated to observe him gasping for air. From the rear of the police vehicle, Dan sees everything. Later, on a lovely summer day, Marie, Thomas, and Michael play in the countryside, while Sara, Irene, and Amy observe from the front porch. Marie observes a person entering the driveway. This is Chris. He arrives with Sara atop his motorbike. They take a walk. He regrets not exerting more effort to find her and believing her father's best story. He gives her a pink motorbike helmet that he purchased for her at the age of 18 when they were planning a trip. They finally embark on their long-awaited motorbike ride, filled with joy. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you can view similar videos. Thank you for viewing.